I'm watching our current political climate and I'm watching slavery being taken out of our textbooks. And I'm thinking like, whoa, 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 you can't just erase it and think it didn't happen. So I went into Fourth Wing with the absolute intent of discussing the erasure of history. And it was a direct critique of what we're doing here in the States.
Hi, I'm KJ Aiello, and welcome back to The Book Hook, where each episode we dig into writing and storytelling that challenges the status quo and examines how authors use their work to resist, question, and reimagine our world. No surface level chat, just thoughtful conversations for critical readers like you. Today, I'm chatting with none other than Rebecca Yarros, best-selling author of the Empyrean series and many, many contemporary romance novels, including my favorite, The Things We Leave Unfinished. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's conversation.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Yarros. I write dragons. That's about it. Hi.
Yes, dragons. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Rebecca. I know how busy you are. This
I'm
feels
happy
like
to.
such a, it's absolutely incredible to be talking to you. And I was telling you right before we started recording that you brought dragons back into my life when I needed the dragons
I'm
again
so
to come
glad.
back in. Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Um, I have a bunch of questions for you. And then I saw some of the reels, some of the videos from last night.
She is Cynthia's. God, I have no words for her. She is as wonderful in person as you could ever expect her to be. I love her.
So wonderful. And I watched when she said to you, and it looked like you were getting a little choked up. I was getting choked up. And she said, you wrote a book and you didn't stop. And then you wrote a book that the world over wanted and you didn't stop. What did that feel like
Yeah.
hearing that from her?
Mostly I was like, you will not cry, you will not cry, you will not cry. Because of course, like I'm in full hair and makeup, and all I can think is I'm going to turn into like a snotty mess.
Yeah.
I think like she just wrote this incredible book, and if you haven't read it yet, you really should. It's called Simply More, and the way she wrote it, it felt like she was in my living room. Like it felt like she had written it for me. Like it was, and I know
Okay.
she of course hadn't written it for me, but I think just the personal relationship she has and her voice to and the way she speaks to her reader really felt like she was in my living room guiding me. And I think because I have struggled so much with how Fourth Wing blew up so quickly, and she
Mm,
takes it with such grace and such joy. And what I had been saying in there was like, it seemed like she'd been born for this life. Like she had been born
yeah.
to have this radical acceptance of herself. Um, and she has these lines in the book where she's like, I don't care what people think. And I'd been like, dude,
Oh,
I would love to know how to get there because she's
yeah.
just so graceful and so inspirational. I don't have words for it. So I was pretty much just sitting there thinking like, you will not cry. Do not cry. That was it.
Oh my goodness. I would cry. I was getting choked up when I saw that because I could see you and as a writer and author myself, I thought, what an amazing thing for somebody like, well, for anybody really to say to a writer, to an author, no matter how many copies sold, we still need to hear that, right?
It, we did. And I think like the heaviest and yet most wonderful thing she said to me, I think I was talking about like, I like to hide from the world. Like
Mm,
I prefer staying behind my desk in a messy bun and a hoodie. I told you I'm only made up for like the Washington Post's Global Summit on Women. I don't look like this normally. And I told her, I was like, I like to hide away from the world. And she said, the way you write, no, the world is not going to let you hide.
yeah.
And it was just this moment where I was like, oh, thank you. But
Yeah.
also, oh, it was like, I don't know. She's just, I feel like she has a gift to like see into people. That's the best
Mhm.
way I can explain it.
I think a lot of artists have that way of being able to see into people, and you have to, in the occupation that you and I have, an occupation that Cynthia has, you have to get into
Mhm.
other people's heads. So we do see
Yeah.
people on a different level. I don't know if you feel the similar way as well.
I I do, but I think she has a unique gift for it because I think she's so attuned to her audience and so attuned
Mm,
to, seeing someone one on one and how to give back as a performer. As we're like,
mhm,
I don't feel I perform. I feel like I go in and I
mhm.
answer questions. I'm horrible at media training. Like I'm horrible when they're like, okay, you want to divert to here, talk about this. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna tell the truth about
Yeah.
whatever question they just asked. And I think so it's like I feel like I'm not performing as where I think
Mhm.
she has this beautiful ability to look at her audience and give them what they need in that moment.
I want to pop back to something that you just said, and it actually leads into a question that I've been
Yeah.
wanting to ask you for a long time because May 2023, I think it was 2023, Fourth
Okay.
Wing hits
Yeah.
the shelves and then it
Yeah.
starts to explode and it's
Yeah.
going viral. How you said you really struggled with the success, how big you
Yeah.
have become now. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Um, it came out in May 2023. My daughter had gotten married the weekend before.
Mhm.
And so it was like, it was one of those things where I told my publisher, like, heads up, I'm a mom this weekend, that like, I'm not,
Mhm.
you know, and so we went into release, and unlike where we've had tours before, I got to stay home and like release in my pajamas, which is my favorite type of release. But honestly, I was almost finished writing Iron Flame at that point,
Mhm.
and I
Okay.
just had my head down. So I knew kind of what was happening, but I was so focused on deadline and on whether or not I was going to make it,
Mhm.
and on whether or not Iron Flame was any good, on was I happy with the pacing, was I happy with the structure, that everything kind of going on with Fourth Wing got pushed to the background, and the stress
Psychologically for
of,
you.
yes, psychologically got
Yeah.
pushed to the background. And I was just really focused on Iron Flame and on my
Mhm.
release schedule and my deadlines. And I don't remember a lot of those first 2 years. Like
Really?
I have very patchy memories of like events, or like I don't remember the first time I went on Good Morning America. I have no
Really?
memory. Nope. I remember I remember locking my ankle behind the chair so I wouldn't like fall off the chair, because could you imagine like national
Wow.
television, you're like psh.
Yeah.
So I
No.
remember locking my ankle, and the only thing I remember out of the interview was over, and lifting my head and thinking my sister moved, because she
Right.
was there with me, and looking up
Yeah.
and not knowing where she was. I have no memory of it.
Wow. So how have you, now that you have an awareness of what you're doing,
Yeah.
you've done Good Morning America a couple of times.
Yeah.
How does it, how are you able to compartmentalize, the Rebecca Yarros who is public with the Rebecca Yarros who is private? Because it is difficult to separate the two because you are such an authentic person. But how do you handle that now?
I'm the same person both places.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the energy to put on, to be two different people. So
Yeah.
really, it's just a matter of how much I let people in publicly now.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
like the same person who is on stage with Cynthia Erivo, or who is, about to go speak at WAPO, is still the same person who's in the stands at my kid's hockey game.
Mhm.
It's just, I look at it as, okay, when I have to be on, like when I know
Yeah.
that the words that come out of my mouth will end up on TikTok or something like that, as opposed to when I can let my guard down, when I'm with my children, when I'm with my husband, when I'm at home, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I compartmentalize pretty well, but I'm the same person whenever you get me, flaws and all. I'm just me.
There can be this sort of shift, and it can be a subconscious or unconscious shift from, the regular author, and then if you start to become a bestseller, you start to get out there a little bit more, and it becomes difficult to sort of navigate who am I really versus, who is the public person, and it's like this bifurcation. I've seen it with a few people, and it's just
Yeah.
I don't know how you are able to manage that. It's phenomenal, really.
I just don't have the energy to like
I
come up with a
know.
whole different personality.
I know. You have books to
But
write.
like I am aware of when I'm on. So I am
Yeah.
well aware of when, again, when my words are going to come back, when I have to be careful with
Yeah.
what I say. Like I'm aware of that. But for the most part, like I'm just me
Yeah.
wherever you
Yeah.
stick me. Like I just don't have the energy, because I'm usually so focused on whatever I'm working on, whatever I'm writing, that it's like, oh, we pop out and do like a public appearance, then pop back. But I shift like when I'm in a signing. So when I'm in a
Hmm.
signing, I shift to whatever the reader in front of me needs.
Yeah.
So if they need me to sit and listen to a story, if they want to tell me something, if they're looking, like I constantly look at readers and think, what are you looking for and how do I give it to you? Like, how do I make this
Wow.
experience of you waiting in this line worth your time? Because you've been waiting hours to come say hi to me. And I want to make sure that you leave this line feeling like you, I was worth waiting for, that you got what you
Yeah.
needed out of it. So I think in that respect, I can switch a little bit into work mode,
Hmm.
but it's still,
It's
it's still
still
just
you.
me. Yeah.
It's just different parts of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That must be a big mental and emotional load for you as well. And it's admirable and I absolutely love it. Is it a lot?
I think all authors do it. I mean, I'm sure like
Yeah.
whenever you're in a signing, whenever you're at an event,
Hmm.
like we are there, like we are who we are because the readers love us and we owe
Yeah.
them everything. And so I look at it as like, you guys are the reason this all happened. You guys are the reason I have
Yeah.
this magnitude of blessings that my kids can go to college, and pay for it and things like that. So it's my job when I'm in an event to give as much as myself to a reader as possible.
Speaking of giving some of yourself, I kind of want to pivot a little bit. Pivot. Every time I hear that word, I think of Friends.
Yeah, think of Ross. Pivot.
Pivot.
Yes. Yes.
So
always,
sorry, that
always.
was the authentic me
No.
that just came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Giving yourself over into your characters. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Violet, particularly because she represents something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and that's disability. And the fact that she requires an assistive device to do her job, and she does it very, very well. I'm wondering how many people actually talk about that with you?
I think a lot of people who are chronically ill, like when I'm in signings, I talk about it a lot more because we do have a lot of chronically ill people come and say, I'm so glad I found myself represented. I think when Fourth Wing came out, I had to laugh because there was a lot of feelings like from reviews, like this girl is weak and she shouldn't survive, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way this should happen. But the people who are chronically ill or even have, EDS like I do, they spotted it in like the first 2 chapters, like, oh, she's me. Oh, I have this. And it really, like the response to it and the response to Violet's chronic illness, I felt was really, it mirrored the real world where people who have it see and made space for it and understood the accommodations and understood that she was never going to get better. And the people who aren't chronically ill were like, why isn't she stronger by book 3? I don't understand. And I'm like, that's not how our bodies work. And, it was a very conscious choice to make sure that magic wasn't going to heal or change her body. Like, yes, she can be mended, but so can everyone else, but she's still going to have EDS.
What is that like to see somebody like that come out into the world as somebody who does live with EDS? Like, do you think of younger Rebecca? Is this what younger Rebecca needed? Or, what does it mean to you?
I think because I was writing Fourth Wing after my diagnosis and I was still really coping with what are my limitations? What accommodations do I need? Because I think I wrote 5 books the year I wrote Fourth Wing. I wrote I don't even know how many words. I think I wrote 800,000 words that year. I was working 17-hour days. Do you ever have as you as an author, do you ever have that moment where you're like, this is where I grind? Do you know what I mean? Like where you go into a season and you're like, okay, it's season to grind. I had a conversation with my husband because I also had a contract for In the Likely Event. And I said, can I do this? And he's like, I've got this. I've got the kids. If you want to do this, we can do this. And so I said, okay. And I was still dealing with my own limitations. And I feel like I worked out a lot of my feelings about how I felt about being diagnosed with EDS and the limitations I knew were on my body. I worked out through Violet. And so, yes, it's something that younger me needed, but I didn't know I had EDS. My children, however, were diagnosed as teenagers and younger. And I feel like almost I wrote Violet for them because I was watching them choose which sports they had to give up because they were breaking arms, dislocating thumbs, all of that. One of my kids has a titanium bar in his chest, all the things that come with EDS. And I was watching them choose to play hockey and how they knew what it could do to them, but we also didn't want to tell them no. So they're as protected as they can be. So I think I kind of wrote it with more them in mind than me.
That's beautiful. And, obviously there's going to be many other people like that who, like your kids, they're going to be feeling the same way as well. And I love Violet, particularly as somebody who does live with disability. I love that she's a hero. She's badass. She can, she's got the biggest dragon. Okay. Which
I mean, that.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to get, after this, I'll get into I want to tell you about the moment, the threshing moment where I started to cry because I felt like this was the moment that I needed. But that Violet is a hero, not because or despite, but simply as she is.
Yes.
Right. There's just, you don't have to be a hero because you live with disability and you are able to do these or despite. This is just, they live together.
This is just how she is. She's chosen because of her courage and her intelligence. Her courage and her intelligence, none of which have anything to do with being chronically ill. And I wanted to show someone who could live in such a brutal environment if simply they had the accommodations that they needed. Because oftentimes we're not given the accommodations that we need in real life.
Yeah, the real world is not exactly, well, a lot of it, particularly in employment that I have found, not kind to people with disability or chronic
No,
illness, not accommodating at all.
no.
And there's an assumption that we're not able to do our job. But I mean, look at you and me. Like, come on, if we have what we need, we can do our job.
It goes both ways. It goes like to where it's like, yes, I can do my job, and my writing setup is very ergonomic and keeps my feet up for
Hmm.
pots, and everything is structured at my desk to support my body while I write. But also I find that the amount of pressure placed on writing faster or releasing or doing events where I'm like, hey guys, heads up, like when I do an event, it's going to take me at least 2 days to recover when I get home. And those
Yeah,
aren't days where I can sit at my desk and work. Those are days where my body is recovering, my brain is recovering.
yeah,
So I think it kind of goes both ways where, yes, we can do our jobs, but also there has to be a wider understanding that my body isn't like everybody else's body,
yeah.
and I do need some more time to recoup and to heal up from whatever I've just put it through.
When I read the threshing scene, it's so funny because I had the book on hold at the library. I ended up buying like 3 copies. But I had the book on hold at the library and I was like, what is this dragon book? I had loved dragons as a kid, and dragons were sort of my salvation. Fantasy was, the escape into a world where people had power, and I needed power because I had no power as a kid. And so I started reading. 10 hours I spent in bed reading it, and the threshing scene when, spoiler, I guess, if you haven't read Fourth Wing yet, I feel like, you know what, like
You
just
should, yeah.
stop. You need to read it, okay?
Earmuffs are back
But
out.
yeah,
Either way.
When she's chosen by both, just started sobbing because here is this girl who I saw so much of myself in, my younger self in, being chosen and getting that power. Just the power that she has was kind of a game changer for me. I felt like I was seeing dragons.
I love it. I think when I went in like with the concept for Fourth Wing, I wanted to see a girl who, had a chronic illness, and I wanted to see the power dynamic shift. So like one of my favorite
Mm,
scenes in Fourth Wing isn't necessarily threshing, it's the day after. And
yeah.
it's when the power dynamic shifts in the lunchroom, right? In the hall.
Hmm.
So you see people who had less powerful dragons not necessarily have such a prominent seat. And to see this girl who everyone had assumed wouldn't make it through threshing, wouldn't make it through gauntlet, she walks in with the biggest, baddest dragon that there is. And I was
Yeah.
so in love with that power dynamic flip of like, yeah, well, I guess who's a
Yeah.
badass now kind of thing. That was one of my favorite parts of writing it.
I'm sure that there are a lot of readers who actually feel the same way when they get to that point. They actually see something that they're wishing, they're hoping, they're seeing maybe played out a little bit, obviously not with dragons, but maybe they're seeing played out in their own schools, in their colleges, in their workplaces, in their communities, that, taking for granted people with disability, people living with chronic illness is not, don't take them for granted, because we can still do what
Yeah.
everybody else does, right?
Yes.
And I think
We
that
just might need a
there's,
different way to do it.
yeah,
We just
yeah,
might need an
exactly.
accommodation. We might need an extra, amount of time. We might need to set our bodies differently, but we're just as mentally capable.
I also feel like in a lot of your work, I mean, and particularly in the Empyrean series, there is also this subtext. I don't know if it's really a subtext, as it's quite overt, this sort of critique or criticism of political structures that are happening right
Yeah.
now. So, knowledge erasure, book banning, legislative
Yeah.
erasure, entire groups of
Yes.
people. Wondering if we could go into that a little bit,
Yeah.
and what was the intent? Did you go into writing this series with that intention? Has it
Yes.
evolved? What's been happening there with you in that?
It absolutely. I went into it with the absolute intent of discussing the erasure of history. I'm watching, our current political climate, and I'm watching, slavery being taken out of our textbooks, especially in the
Hmm.
South. And I'm thinking like, whoa, 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 we can't learn from horrific mistakes if we don't know they happened. Like you can't just erase it and think it didn't happen. And so I went into Fourth Wing thinking, okay, what if there is this society and they have erased all this history in order to, hide this conflict that's happening over their border? They don't understand why these attacks are
Hmm.
happening. They have the complete wrong idea of their neighbors. And it was a direct critique of what we're doing here in the States.
And how many people have been able to pick up on that?
A lot.
Yeah,
Surprisingly, I think
yeah.
one of the first like one of the first early copies that went out, like a reviewer caught onto it, and I like started crying because I was like, yes, they got the whole point. It's not just sex and dragons. So I think a lot of people do pick up on it, and I'm grateful for it. It's the same thing as I critique, as as the series goes and the world expands, I critique that they don't accept refugees from this war. They won't let people within their borders. They won't allow, people to come in. And I continue to see things that I can draw in, but I don't include everything from our world to directly critique on. So there's no racism and there's no sexual violence, because I want to critique this specific area of our country, and by not critiquing the other side, we can spend more time discussing the others.
Yeah. So even in the language, I noticed too, like you were very good at, dropping the little hints and seeds and that sort of thing, which is just absolutely brilliant. But specifically the Tirish term for the rebellion is the apostasy, where in the Navarian they call it a secession. Which, which feels to me like again, this is a critiquing of what's also happening right now, is who has the power gets to write the history.
Yes,
right.
It is. It's always, and I mean, history, that's what my degree is in. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love. And it's always written by the victor. It's just what it is, unless you're going to go look for books by like Howard Zinn and things like that. You're not really, unless you're looking for history from the perspective of the underdog, you're not going to be served it. You're going to be served history from the victor. You have to go and look for history that's written by the underdog and the people who don't win the wars. And so the apostasy is, I think Xaden says, we lost faith that our king would eventually do the right thing, I think is the line. Don't quote me on that because my book is not in front of me. As everyone's like, that's not what he says. And I'm like, I know. Okay. But, the Tirish people lose the faith, and then what they understand is happening. And the Navarians paint it as a secession. They paint it as something completely different. And the people of the rebellion, the leaders of the rebellion, are all executed, and then the children are forced to bear the punishment. So it's one of those ways that, and of course Violet barely knows, and it just shows you, for Violet to barely know, and she's been trained to describe, what the scribes record is what goes in history, and what isn't recorded isn't learnable.
It's the scribes who have the power out of all the quadrants. It's the scribes.
Yes, they're not only the historians, but the reporters. They're the ones bringing the news back from the front lines. They're the ones deciding what gets put in the public notices. They're the ones who decide what gets put into the history books.
Which goes directly into the banning of knowledge that is happening. I mean, in the U.S., and to some extent it's happening in Canada here too. Banned books, censorship of news, which it's alarming. It's a little scary. It is scary. So on that note too, because I've seen it in your work, and it's remarkable because, you've broken records, pre-sale records. I think it was for, pointing there, Iron Flame, Onyx Storm. It's I know I got your books there. I love them. I love them so much. I have little dragon things that go on them normally. Now I just lost my train of thought. No, you're totally fine. I got all excited. I'm like, look, I have your books.
I know.
Of course I have them. So your books have become so popular. I'm also wondering now if there might be a pressure, a responsibility. The question being, is there a responsibility for writers and authors, regardless of the genre that they're writing or the audience they're writing to start diving into some of these issues? Not
publicly, or in their, personally, or in their writing?
In their work, yeah.
I am loath to tell anyone what they have to do. I'm loath to tell anyone, especially in this political climate when you have legislators being assassinated in their homes. I am loath to tell anyone, hey, you have an obligation to speak about this publicly or speak about it in your work. I think those of us who feel like we should, we can and we do. But I'm not going to tell someone who is going to be made to feel unsafe in their home, especially in this climate, that it's their duty to do so, because I would then feel responsible should something bad happen to them or their family. And I think that we've undergone such a dramatic shift in the last year where the First Amendment is under attack here in the U.S. and where people aren't as safe to say what they want, that I don't I don't think it's my place to tell anyone what they should be doing. I know I feel as though I should. And when I approach a book, whether it be contemporary romance or whether it be Empyrean, I always look for one, the romance, because I'm not here unless there's a romance, at least like plot or subplot. Like you're going to
Romance
lose
is
me.
radical. Romance is radical.
It is, and it's what keeps me there.
Yes.
And so I look for these two people. Why can they be together? Why shouldn't they be together? Why they're perfect for each other? Where's their tension? How can they help each other grow? And the next thing I ask myself is, what social issue do I want to explore? So in every single one of my books, I'm gonna explore either how I feel about the op tempo of the military and what it's doing to our soldiers' mental health. I'm going to discuss childhood cancer. I'm going to discuss whether people with Alzheimer's should be able to say they want a DNR. I'm going to discuss some type of social issue. I always have. It's just what I do. But I'm never going to tell someone else what they have to do.
Have you ever felt unsafe because of what you write?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had to move. Gosh, the amount of death threats. My husband just has like a personal contact at the FBI at this point. People tracked down our house after like Iron Flame was coming out, and it was probably the hardest period of my life. And people tracked down our house and were sending things and scaring my kids. And we had to move. And I was so sad because I built this beautiful garden there. And we have a beautiful house now. We're very lucky that we ended up buying like my husband's dream house, like the house he would always look at Zillow and be like, one day, maybe if. Yes. And so we made something beautiful out of something scary. But yeah, all the time I feel like people can show up, people can find my, where my kids go to school, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry that's happening to you. That's
awful. What happens. It's just, it's what happens.
So how do you navigate the world then?
I try to forget it's happening for the most part. Like if I make someone mad, I make someone mad. And I think my first responsibility is, as unfeminist as it sounds, is as a wife and a mother, right? These are the people who love me, who see me, who understand my good, my bad, the worst of me, the best of me, and radically accept all of me. And so my first responsibility is to them, to keep them safe, to make sure they feel safe, they feel secure. Everything else comes afterward.
Yeah. I don't think that's unfeminist at all. I think that's incredibly feminist because it's your choice.
It is. It is my choice. And that is, anyone who's watching, feminism is a choice. If you want to stay home, we're all for it. Just know that the choice is what...
Yours. It is all yours. Speaking of feminist, I have seen this huge explosion. Obviously, we've all seen this explosion of romantasy, and I love the combination between, the gritty fantasy world where the main female character, she's badass, she fights, she gets dirty, she gets bloody, she wields a sword and the lightning magic, which, thank you, I would like. But she also has joyful sex. She gets the guy there. It's very sex positive. There's no shame.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something radical about that. I'm wondering, at what point did you realize that this is kind of the trope that you want to write, this sort of free, joyful, radical love where there's no shame?
Click. Well, my romance is always like, consent is always first and foremost in my romances. And as is sex positivity, it just kind of is. I think romance is pretty radical and feminist because it's women saying this is what we deserve. This is what we want. This is, we can be everything or nothing, whatever we choose, right? But this is what we feel like we deserve. And being sex positive in Empyrean, I love that everybody sleeps with everyone. That there's no judgment on if you want to sleep with, anyone, a man, woman, non-binary, everybody sleeps with everybody, and sex is encouraged. It's because it's another bodily activity. And I always laugh at people who do like the pearl clutching, and they're like, will you please write a clean version so I can read this to my children? And I'm like, okay, but even if you took out all the sex, what about the murder? Like the murder is really what you should be worried about, because as this is written for a new adult audience, which it is, and it has an Alex Award, which means it has literary merit and should be shelved for also kids in high school. But teenagers and young adults, I'm hoping, are having more sex than murder.
Oh, one would hope.
One would hope.
Goals.
One would hope. One would hope. And so it really wasn't a decision as much as it just is. It's how I think the world really should be. And of course we should have joyful sex.
Yeah.
everything we do should be a choice that we make, and we should be able to throw our full hearts into.
Yeah, and it feels like it's giving something to particularly young women, older teenagers, young women, women Gen X, young Gen X like me, middle-aged women. There is this freedom, this agency, this power in rediscovering this or discovering it for the first time. My generation, we do not talk about sex, right? This was a shame, particularly for women, such
I
a
gotcha.
shameful thing. Yeah, you know what I'm talking
So,
about.
did you grow up reading romance? Like, did you read any romance when you were growing up?
I read my mom's Harlequin romances secretly,
Yeah.
and she kept them in her
Okay.
underwear drawer.
Ooh, okay. I was never censored in what I
Yes.
read, and my dad
Yeah.
read a ton of fantasy. Like, it's because of him that I read Emma Caffrey and Marion Zimmer Bradley and everything like that.
Yes.
But my mother was a huge fan of like Jude Deveraux, Catherine Coulter, like all
Mm,
like those like 80s romances, right?
yeah.
So I read Jude Deveraux when I was like 11. Now, should I maybe have had a little like parental supervision? Maybe. But at the same point, it formed a very healthy attitude towards sex. And my parents were never worried about being an open conversation about consent, about making sure that I was safe with my body and my heart and things like that. And I think that that really shaped why
Yeah.
I can write romance.
That's wonderful. And I am seeing the younger women now owning their bodies, owning their sexuality, owning sex. And
Right.
it's, somebody middle-aged like me, it's a beautiful thing to see because, again, it's like going back to the dragons. This is what I wanted when I was younger. I didn't know I
Yeah.
wanted it, but this is what I want for the younger me. And I'm getting it now.
Yeah.
I'm getting those narratives and it feels good, right?
I knew like I write, and this is, I write the books that I want to read. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Or the books I
Yeah.
wish I'd had to read, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I always, if it's a story like that I fall in love with that I'm going to write, I really started writing because I wanted to see a different kind of story, or I wanted to write what I wanted to read.
Yeah.
So I think I hope that it's empowering to a younger generation. But at the end of the day, when I'm sitting there, it's really just like I just live there. Does that make sense? Like when
Yeah.
I'm an Empyrean, I'm just
Absolutely.
living in the Empyrean world and kind of I'm enjoying what's happening. And I hope that everyone else is enjoying it. But at the end of the day, it's me playing with my imaginary friends.
Yeah, I
You know?
understand that 100%. It's so difficult to write a project where it's not something that you would want to read.
Right.
And this
No,
is one
and
of
no
the,
one
it,
should.
I
Like,
mean, sometimes we have to make money. If you're contractually obligated, sometimes you have to make money.
that is so true. But I remember like people asking me, like, what do you want now this has happened? I'm like, one, I just want to go back to my desk. I'm happiest at my desk with a messy bun and a
Mhm.
hoodie and a cup of coffee and a Coke. Like
Yeah,
that is where I am
yeah,
happiest is
yeah.
playing with my imaginary friends. And I do understand having to write for contracts, but I hope that everyone can get to a place where they take the contracts that they want and the contracts that
Oh,
they believe in and the contracts that they're passionate about. And I remember people saying, "What do you want next for your career?" And I simply said, "I don't want to take another contract because I have to. I only
yeah.
want to take something that I am fully invested and passionate about."
Capitalism is very difficult for the artists.
It is.
It
And
is,
especially when
yeah.
you have different trends. And if people, I find like if you're trying to chase a trend and it's not where your passion is, you're not going to be successful chasing it anyway.
No,
So everyone should write. I feel like if you write what you love, even as the market is cyclical, it will come back.
yeah,
Is that, you know what I mean? Because the
100%.
first book I wrote was an urban fantasy and it didn't sell. Like that thing lives in my desk drawer. And every once in a while I like open the desk drawer and I pet it and I'm like, it's not your time yet. And then I shut
Soon,
and I shut the drawer and I go about my business.
I want to
So
read it.
knowing that like romantasy was coming, or that whole thing,
Mm,
and I have mixed feelings about the term romantasy, but like
okay.
as I knew that it was coming, I was like, oh, the market's cyclical and now I can lean into what I really love. But I think if you're
Yeah.
building your backlist, the market is cyclical and it's going to come
Mhm.
back around to what you've written. So if you've already written it, you are poised to strike when that market shifts.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I
And
talk with my hands in case
no,
anyone.
it's okay. I'm Italian, so it's like I'm sitting on my hands right now, okay?
I got it. I got it.
Very, yeah. But I also feel like the more of a backlist you get, the more people read you for you.
Yeah.
People will see a Rebecca Yarros book on the shelf. They'll say it's Rebecca Yarros. I'm not even going to look at the
Mm-hmm.
back jacket copy. I'm going to pick it up, regardless of whether it's timely or not, whether it's on trend or not. And also because they're written very well, right?
Oh,
Because you
thank
did
you.
hold on to
It's
it
very
and
kind of
you
you.
wrote, yeah, you wrote what you wanted to write. And I can tell in your writing, reading some of your contemporary romances. By the way, I have to say this is my favorite.
That's mine too.
Really? We're the
Yeah.
same person.
It is. Yes, that is my favorite book I've ever written.
Oh God, it was so beautiful. But also
Thank
reading
you.
it as a writer, I was trying to pick apart, like, okay, how did she do this? So it's,
Oh my
I don't
God,
know if
that
you
book.
read like that.
Okay, so that book, because it's half historical fiction, which I'm a giant history nerd, right? So I was like, yes. And it's, half contemporary. And I found it was one of my first forays into how I plot now. Like it really was. I had to tack up all these note cards. I'm a weird plotter. Like my plotting process is probably bizarre to everyone else that plots like by beats or by structures. But I had to put up like the index cards of what was happening in each chapter and then a timeline of what was happening in World War II, because everything in there is historically accurate. Like there is a bombing at Ipswich that day. There is all these things happening. And then I would have to go back and make sure that whatever's happening in the past was corresponding in the present to help my characters move.
Yeah.
So that as the reader was going through the past exploration of Scarlett and Jameson, it's moving Noah and Georgia in the present tense. Like those experiences are helping shape both those characters and your experience and what you're open to about their relationship and what you're not. And it was my favorite puzzle to put together. And I still remember, I wrote it in the middle of the pandemic, and I can still remember like arranging all the note cards on my dining room table to make sure that the cause and effect was there for each chapter to reflect back on the next. And it was such a difficult time, I think, in my life when I wrote it, which I think is why it's my favorite. Is I'm just so incredibly proud that I got it done.
Wow. I'm proud that you got it done too. As an author, I'm very proud of you. I think what you've done for a lot of us who, I mean, first of all, want dragons, but also want to write the books that we want to write for ourselves, but also to put ourselves into them so we can feel. Truly, deeply feel. I don't know about you, but sometimes I write to feel something.
Yes, I write, and especially because my plotting structure is so weird. I make a playlist first, like a music playlist, and I make them as I am doing something else. So as I am writing my new contemporary, I'm building the playlist for book 4 for Empyrean, because I'm listening to something and I'm like, oh, that triggers this thought, this feeling, this scene. And then I put it into the playlist. And then once that playlist is, well constructed and I finish my next the project, as I'm writing the contemporary, books 4 and 5 will go up on the board, because I will sit there and as I listen to this music, I will take index cards and I'll like write a random scene on it.
I love
like
it.
This feels like so if we use the Iron Flame, I'm like, this feels like, who the fuck's flight jacket are you wearing? And I swear, sorry. This feels like, this feels like Liam appearing in the torture chamber. This feels like this and this and this. And I write all these cards and then I stack them. And then as I get ready to apply, I take them out. I look at this like conglomerate of scenes and emotions, which is just really what it is, because I want to feel that.
Yeah.
And then I structure it. I structure it in color-coded Post-it notes.
I love it.
So that
you're like Monica Geller as well.
I kind of, but I'm not type, like I'm the messiest person you'll ever meet.
Really?
My laundry is everywhere. Oh no, I am a hot mess. But my plot board is
gorgeous.
Like, it is color coded. So I can tell you where I'm missing my romance, where I'm missing my action, where I'm missing my Easter eggs, like where my pacing is off, because I can see it in color. But yes, I write because I want to feel that. And because I write deep person POV and first person, I really sit inside Violet's body. Or I sit inside Imogen's body, in that scene where things happen. I sit inside my character and I feel what they're feeling. And I remember I wrote this book called The Reality of Everything. And she has anxiety attacks, and they're written as mine. Like they're how my anxiety attacks present. And I remember having to go to my psychiatrist and being like, I'm having daily anxiety attacks because I'm feeling what this character is feeling, and I'm putting myself into anxiety attacks as I write, because I'm capturing that feeling in my body and those viscerals.
And it shows on the page. It really does show on the page. You can tell if an author was not feeling it as they were writing it. And like, I don't know about you, but the entire almost year of drafting my book, I was in therapy every single week, just trying to get through it. And it was always talking about my book and trying to get through the themes and the scenes. And it can take a toll on you.
For me, it's not the structure of a book or the emotions of a book isn't what puts me there. It's the pressure The pressure now of like what Empyrean is harder to sit down. Like Fourth Wing fell out of me in 2.5 months. Like it was there. It was ready. It fell out. I wrote the synopsis overnight. I wrote the first like 3 chapters in like 3 days. Like it was like, it was just there and it fell out. And even as I was writing it, like the gauntlet isn't in the synopsis. Like I just ran like, and we need this. And suddenly the gauntlet like appears. And it was 2.5 months of the most joyful writing. I remember getting up in the morning and I would look at my husband. I would say, I get to go play with dragons today. And I would go to work. But then everything takes off. And suddenly I'm finishing Iron Flame. And I remember I was finishing Iron Flame and it was already #1 on the Amazon chart. And I was still writing it.
Finished it.
And Onyx is the same way. And there comes a point where when you sit down, you're like, every line you write is going to be up for public discourse and up for, mockery or up for, hey, this is great or this is bad. And you start like second guessing almost every line you write because you know how much bigger it's gotten. And I think that's what makes it harder for me now.
You.
Yeah. That's why it takes me longer to write.
And I actually really appreciate that you put those boundaries up as people are asking when's the 4th book coming out, and you're like, it's coming out when it comes out. Like, and I'm like, atta girl.
That is, I get so much crap for that. That is because I don't know, like, I mean, I've publicly spoken about this in like People magazine, so I'm pretty open about it. I don't know how I survived Onyx. I really think the only reason I survived writing Onyx is because toward the end of it, my husband and my sister didn't leave me alone for 5 minutes. Like it was the most dangerous time in my entire life. When I turned that book in, like, I mean, you can watch the light like fade out of my eyes in Instagram pictures. And by the time we were in Scotland, because I was also promoting, I was in the middle of writing in the hotel rooms, proofing, doing all the edits and everything like that. And I remember turning that book in and sobbing hysterically. Like the second they told me it was gone to the printer, I just remember sobbing hysterically. And my husband saying, you can't do this. Like, he's like, you can't do this to yourself again. And I was so burnt out, like burnt out and so exhausted that, because it had been 2.5 years of 17-hour days, that I had to put a boundary in place, but also tell everyone how like it's a really hard balance between, I am so grateful and I am so amazed. I know this is every writer's dream. I know that, but I also got to live through it.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to be like, hey guys, I need this time to sleep and recoup and be okay. I need to be present for my children. I need to not be their tragedy. I need to be, a source of their joy. And also, but oh God, am I just so lucky? Like, of course I want to put out another book, and of course I want to feed the fandom, and of course I want to feel joy in this journey. And it's like a weights and balances system.
Yeah, but these two truths, they can live together. That seems so contradictory. They can live at the same space, and that's being human.
Yeah. And some days they do exist together, and some days they don't. Some days one outweighs the other. Some days I'm like, no, I just need to lock in and go do that. And then I'm reminded, hey, do you remember what this did to you last time?
Yeah.
And then some days it's like, hey, let's just strive for some balance. But I don't know about you. When I fall into a story, even if I've been working like 8 hours, trying to pull me out of it is like people will come to my office and I'm typing and they'll show at the door and I'm like, what?
The goblin.
You know what I mean? Because I am like, because I'm in it. I'm like locked in.
Yeah.
So when I do write, it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And I've always written like that. I wrote the last letter in 3 weeks. So like it is, it's like, but that's just me. So it's either like it's feast or famine. It's ADHD.
Yeah. I mean, you're using it to the best advantage, but also it seems like you're becoming more aware of what you need and putting up those boundaries. And again, like I said, good for you for putting up those boundaries. That is so hard to do. Understand this. How are you feeling mentally, psychologically for the 4th, going into drafting the 4th book, whenever you do? No pressure. I finally feel great. It's the first time I felt great in probably since I wrote Fourth Wing.
I feel like I've got a system in place that's going to protect me mentally to make sure that the book is the best it can be while also working at my best. I feel like I'm so ready to get back to my desk because I've been doing all these, public appearances. Because also I think people forget that our job is to promote the book. Like authors, our job isn't just to put it out there. It is to show up and to do the promo and to make sure you're pushing where you can and doing both aspects of the job. But I'm getting ready to enter a period where it's a writing period where I don't have another public appearance until like April, I think, right now. So I am so excited to get back to my desk and my oversized hoodies and, all my compression socks and just to lock in and fall in love with the story and lose myself in it. So I feel positively wonderful.
Oh, I got chills. I know the feeling. It's like
when you're like ready to go.
Oh, and it's like you go into like this effervescent hibernation mode.
Yeah.
Everything is cozy. Everything is this dream state. You are flow state. The world is amazing.
Yes. And when I get there, like even because of course I go to like my kids' hockey games, right? But even when I'm in the flow state for a book, I'll be at the hockey game and I'm watching and my husband's like, "You're not really here, are you?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I'm also in this random scene in my head where this thing is happening." Like, I love that and I crave that. And I think because I've put myself, I'm lucky, I'm very privileged to have been able to put myself in a position where what happens is what happens, like with my writing and when the deadlines are. I feel like one, I will write faster because I won't have everybody like, ha! And two, I'm just so passionate about what I'm getting ready to write. I really am. There's some pressure, I think, just to make sure that everybody's happy. And I know that at this stage in the game, there's no making everyone happy. Like it doesn't matter. I could deliver the best book in the history of man, which is not possible because I'm not the best writer in the history of man. If anyone ever thinks that, no. But I could deliver my best possible book, and I will still not live up to someone's expectations, or however that happens. But I think just freeing myself from that pressure is helpful.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for bringing dragons back into my life.
I'm so glad
you have no idea what this has meant to me. Dragon tattoo. So I'm just not to be weird, yanking down my shirt.
No, that's fine. People do far stranger things when they show me tattoos. Like I'll be on an airplane, so I'm like, "Can I just show you?" And like pants are coming down and hips are coming out, and I'm like, "Hey, okay,
let's do this."
I know, it's amazing. It's great.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate this. Good luck in everything. Let's keep in touch, and take care. Thank you for listening to The Book Hook. This episode was hosted by me, KJ Aiello, with production by Jesse DiMartino and social media production and marketing by Jackie Johnstone. Come back for more episodes like this one.